No, he can't beat Goku. You can stop furiously typing your comments without watching my video now. Now that I have you here, I'm going to debunk the claim Gear 5 is an pool or One Piece is doing power creep. Shut up, Todd. To do this, I will walk you through the gears, haki, and the great incident that is Kid versus Shanks, and I'll prove to you that it all makes perfect sense. And then I'll spend the rest of my day arguing with Dragon Ball Super fanboys. Alright, everyone who watches One Piece and is uncultured would probably tell you it starts to get good at Arlong. Cultured people know it was always good, but that's besides the point. What they're usually talking about is the tone. The tone really changes at Arlong because up to this point, not only is everything jokes, but we couldn't see Luffy losing. There was no sense of stakes. With Arlong, Luffy was acting all serious, but the real serious vibe comes from the fact that we couldn't picture him winning this one, but he does. Fast forward to Water 7. This time Luffy is soundly beaten. It's not that we can't picture him winning. It's that we saw him lose and it wasn't even close. The team is falling apart, he had a fight with his best friend, but on the way to Enya's lobby, we see his familiar confidence. At this point, we know this fella has to be on that stuff, but we can't help but trust him. And we see what he thought of. Gear 2 and 3, his solution to match CP9 in speed and strength. Fast forward to his next wall, Shabaudi Archipelago, and the result of that loss comes into fruition at the end of Marineford when Bro learns Haki. He comes back and just like pre-time skip, he's flying through his opponents until he meets Doflamingo and pulls out Gear 4. The difference between Gear 2 and 3 and Gear 4 is that Gear 2 and 3 was something he came up with after losing directly to CP9. Gear 4 is something he came up with and he had in his back pocket until he found someone worthy enough to whip it out on. Gear 4 was him using Haki and his concept of modifying his body properties with his fruit, like Kakarot's combining Super Saiyan with Super Saiyan God to create Super Saiyan Blue. Okay, but what the hell is Gear 5? Well, Gear 5 is actually the true evolution of his fruit's powers. Everything else was just nonsense he made up. His awakening is the real pinnacle of what his fruit could do. And Kaido says a devil fruit awakening comes when mind and body are in tune with fruit or whatever he said. But why now? Why when he needed it most? Like and subscribe. Let's rewind to him being decimated by Kaido on their first bout. After everything he learned, after coming from developing his observation haki against Katakuri, showing us his speed version of Gear 4 and endurance version, he meets Kaido and Kaido is a monster. He took all of that beating from Luffy simply because he wanted to sober up, and it didn't even help. Just like CP9, Luffy had to find a way to hurt this guy if he actually wanted to beat him. So he learns Ryo, Advanced Armament Haki, and we start to think he can fight, but we still can't see him winning. That hasn't changed. And when they fight, we were right. He puts up a fight with all his friends. He can actually put a dent in Kaido's health, but he can't just beat him. In fact, I would argue he was going to lose that fight if things went on like that. Because unlike with CP9 when he came back with his solution, Gear 2 and 3, Gear 2 and 3 was enough to stand up to Rob Lucci. But Dio wasn't enough to stand up to Kaido. See, unlike with CP9, what he had prepared to cross this wall that he came across was not enough. Now the stage is set. Rayleigh once said that Haki develops more in Haki fights. That's why Luffy's observation grew against Katakuri. And we believe the real reason Luffy won that fight was because he won in the battle of wills. I mean, Haki is literally will. It's spelled out for us. It's the same thing against Kaido. In their first bout, Luffy didn't have the body to stand up to Kaido, nor the mind to know why he can't back down. But in their second bout, he did. And Kaido pushed him far enough to reach his awakening. A Haki fight is where Haki develops most, and this Haki fight pushed his devil fruit too. I said it was a battle of wills and I meant it. Kaido was on the track to losing the moment he realized this is the Joy Boy he has been waiting for to dethrone him. We have seen Luffy's progression and the proof is in 1000 plus episodes. Now the power creep allegations come when someone comparable to Luffy gets one-shotted by Shanks. I mean, they just came from beating 2 emperors in an all-out war and then he goes and loses from one attack. It's actually not that complicated. This is basic fighting principles. This is the same reason Kakarot and his friends never started a fight by going all out. Kid overcommitted in that attack, so he couldn't really switch to defense effectively. I mean, Shanks already has like mad speed. Not to mention the future sight's head start. Luffy losing to Kaido easily was because he didn't have the strength to even hurt him a little. And then what Kid lacked in this fight was a brain. You don't just go all out, you'll be very, very vulnerable. See, Haki blooms most effectively in Haki fights. Kid versus Shanks wasn't even a fight. People like Shanks have very few rivals. That's why the few rivals they do have, they always have friendly bouts with, to stay sharp and probably grow in those fights. Roger versus Whitebeard, there's very few people these people can fight as rivals. Shanks versus Mihawk. I mean, for them to have that kind of haki, they can't just be fighting anyone. Shanks can't just be fighting Kid. He won't grow. He needs to fight people on his level if he wants to grow. To that strength. Let me be clear. The only reason he's that strong is because he's been fighting people who are that strong. And there's not many of them. See, Luffy didn't have the haki to even kiss Kaido's feet, but he came back with it. And he arguably made more progress in the fight itself than in the prison. See, all he did in the prison was learn the theory, and that was enough to propel him. The theory got him to stand up to Kaido, turning Kaido versus Luffy into a fight so that he could grow his haki. See, Kid versus Shanks wasn't a fight. Same thing with Luffy versus Kaido round 1. It was not a fight, but he came back having enough strength, haki, to make it a fight. And that fight then propelled his haki to grow to the point of victory. Back to Kid versus Shanks. We know Shanks is a haki beast, and we've also seen that Kid doesn't have that many haki feats. So if you combined his stupidity to overcommit in such an attack, where even if he had monster haki, he'd be severely injured, what do you think would happen if he didn't have the haki to stand up to even Big Mom on her own? That's like 4 times bonus damage already on Shanks' side. A one shot only makes sense here. Kid and Law didn't beat Big Mom in a haki bout. It was their devil fruits. And Shanks was fast enough not to let Kid use his devil fruits. It is simple maths. Kid lost because he was stupid. And I would argue that Law survived as long as he did with Blackbeard because he was smart. Even by fruit-only standards, Blackbeard completely outgunned Law. But Law could still turn it into a battle. Unlike Kid, power creep, they said. Better watch your mouth. One Piece has never been about power levels. This is not Dragon Ball. In Dragon Ball, we know to win you must reach a higher power level. It's literally numerically decided. Every fight in One Piece, every fight I've mentioned so far in this video wasn't as simple as I have a higher power level so I win. In One Piece, I have a high power level just means you get to step in the ring. But will is what it takes to step out victorious. I rest my case. And subscribe to my Patreon to support my channel.